What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And I just want to let you all know that we do read your comments on the YouTube. We do see, your mentions on Twitter. And we know that we have been neglecting talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they did lose this week, so maybe less of an optimistic conversation than some of you would hope, but we will be talking about that game against the Eagles. We will be talking about Commanders Saints. We'll be talking about a lot of the games that we missed from our normal Monday recap of the week, along with the Monday night games. We'll talk about Theo's Packers beating the Seattle Seahawks. One agenda survives, the other falls short. But before we get into all that is good and great about NFL football, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Wednesday evening?
Well, I'm wonderful. I saw one of the greatest fantasy football moments of my life this last weekend. I understand maybe to some extent you don't care about another person's fantasy league, but what happened to Blaiden was hilarious. The way that he won his game. For those who don't know, we do a 32-team league, and the rule is the bottom four people get kicked from the league. Yes. Well, Blaiden last year auto-drafted his team, and his guys got hurt, and he got booted. He was in the bottom four, which is the toilet bowl is the bottom 8 teams. If you lose your first game, you're out. Well, this season we decided to make a AAA league to the 32-team league with the reverse rules. So if you are in the top 4, you get promoted. And this year, Blaiden lined up to draft a team, and you did a pretty good job, and you were in the playoffs, and you're not only in the playoffs, but you're one of the best teams. Yeah. So Blaiden has a matchup. He's got to win a game to be in the top 4 and get promoted back to the regular league. And it's a really good game going into Monday night. He's up 13. He's got Jacoby Myers and Daniel Carlson. And the other guy has the Vikings defense and Desmond Ridder. So kind of a funky matchup. Yeah. And early in it, it's looking like really bad. Ridder isn't doing much, but Jacoby Myers has 0 catches and Daniel Carlson's a kicker. Whereas the Vikings defense is, of course, crushing the Bears, which I didn't think was that big of a surprise.
Right.
Regardless, it starts getting down to the absolute wire. And the Bears score a touchdown that takes some points off of the Vikings defense, and they go for 2, which would have gotten them to a new point threshold, which would have given Blaiden the lead, and then they don't get it. But then all of a sudden, when the Raiders look totally out of it and the Falcons are trying to just run out the clock, they get the ball back, and Jacoby Meyer catches 3 quick passes in a row. And all of a sudden, Blaiden has a 1-point lead. And the Raiders are down on the 5-yard line. And all Blaiden needs is for Ridder not to throw a touchdown to anybody other than Myers. And then he immediately does. So Blaiden's back down 5 points. Both games have 2 minutes to go. There's almost no way that he can come back. And then Daniel Carlson misses the extra point. And the 32-team leagues, as it gets blocked, and the gag in these 32-team leagues is that it's bad kickers, and they only score when they miss. And an extra point missed is worth 15 points. So Blaiden jumps back to a huge lead. Ridder goes on and has some nice throws and whatever, and puts up points. It doesn't matter. He's got such a commanding lead that he ends up winning. So he's going to be back in the regular league. It was awesome watching that live.
And it's crazy because I've had no one to talk to about this. I made a TikTok about it, but there's such a small subsection of people that understand the magnitude of what went down. My girlfriend came into town last night, and I'm trying to explain it to her, and she's like, "Wait, you got points for your kicker missing?" I'm like, "Yeah."
That is the twist. Just when people think they have the 32-man league figured out, there's the bad kicker wrinkle. I felt like I was getting a old NFL Films breakdown of a legendary game listening to that, Matt. I have no oversight of the AAA league, so I had no idea what was going on. It was just in our group chat. Matt is like, "Oh my God." And then Blaiden was like, "No way." And then Matt was like, all that's happening is Desmond Ridder is chipping away at like a
Desmond Ritter 6-yard pass to Jacoby Myers. Dude, that balances out and
and you
it's
guys
good
are
for
like
us.
freaking out. I was like, what is going on?
I didn't think about that you couldn't follow it because you're not in the 30. Well, you're in the main, but you're not in the
No,
AAA.
that's what makes it so. Like, I can't live tweet about this and be like, "No way, Desmond Ritter just completed a 6-yard pass to Jacoby Myers."
What are
No
they
one's
on
gonna
about?
get that.
So that was pretty good. It was a fun watch, and I think I texted like, "You need Carlson to miss," and it gets blocked.
No, the text thread of us needing Carlson to miss is
discussing
so
what we need Jacoby Myers to do and Ritter to do. But so that was a lot of fun. Outside of that, I feel like I've had a pretty normal week. I don't know
Yeah,
about you guys.
Ritter can't score here unless it's to Myers. That's brutal, is Matt. And then I say, dude, that's so unfair. Miss the PAT. And then in all caps, dude. And then Matt says, no way, LFG. And that's
I think I have an ear infection.
My friend had one of those, and it was you. Have you gone to the doctor?
No, that's next on the
You
agenda.
should, you should
after
just
this.
go ahead and go because he put his off, and then he suffered, which is a classic move to be like, I'm a beast. I'm not gonna go to the doctor for this. I'm just gonna like power through it for a day or two.
yeah.
It's one of those things.
I
No,
don't think I've ever had an ear infection.
I'm going to the doctor after the podcast. I'm not trying to beast mode this, but my ear does hurt. And it's like sending pain like into my like molars and like into my jaw, like kind of in these intermittent waves.
Damn.
So it's not really a great situation.
I get
for me.
sinus infections, and that'll happen. You'll feel it like in your teeth. You're like, ugh, that's not a
doesn't feel
good
good.
feeling.
But I think I can have a flu game here. We'll see.
It's okay. You're
Let's do
recovering.
it.
You were sick the last episode. You're still recovering. It's allowable at this point. I'm curious, which game, Theo, would you like to start with?
I think we should start with what I believe to be kind of the big ticket game of the week that we haven't already talked about, which is the Steelers versus the Eagles battle of Pennsylvania. You know, 2 double-digit win teams going head-to-head, and then the Eagles ended up winning pretty convincingly. I think they won by 2 touchdowns, and they took a knee, like, in an and-goal situation. What do you guys think of the Eagles? I know the big storyline was, you know, the passing attack was kind of struggling in a way, even though they were winning games. Like, A.J. Brown, like, threw his helmet and said they need to get better passing, and Brandon Graham said they're not really friends anymore, him and Hurts. And then they said, like, we're good, we're okay. And then obviously A.J. Brown had a big game. So what are your thoughts on Hurts in the passing attack versus Pittsburgh?
You know,
I thought it was.
go ahead, Matt.
I thought it was better. Obviously, he's hitting more throws around the field than he has been the last few weeks, and some stuff over the middle, and a lot of it was still sort of short game stuff out to the left. But it doesn't need to be that varied for it to be effective, I think. I mean, if it's just stuff without short and you can threaten teams enough over the middle to keep them honest, and you can hit your stuff down the sideline to A.J. Brown or those quick slants to A.J. Brown, like that's going to be plenty considering how good you are on the ground. Now, this wasn't their greatest running game. In fact, I don't think they averaged more than 4 yards a carry. I don't remember what the exact number was, but Saquon had probably one of his least efficient games. But if the Eagles are doing this, man, like if you told me right now that they'd go into the playoffs with Hurts playing well and the passing attack like healthy and alive, with how the Lions defense looks right now, I mean, would they not be the favorite to come out of the NFC? It's close, obviously.
Right.
The Eagles have so much going for them that they were winning all these games despite the fact that the passing attack was...
But you could say the same about the Lions. They've also
could.
been winning games despite their flaws.
I think that Hurts is having a very interesting career progression and a very interesting season. And I thought even within this game, there was just a lot to dissect, both good and bad with him. I think that there were still a lot of moments where he didn't get rid of the football and he scrambled. And maybe he could have gotten rid of the football. But I think the Steelers gave them a gift of blitzing and playing a lot of man. According to True Media, there were 11 man blitzes, and that's when A.J. Brown is one-on-one and they were able to start hooping. And so when you have that situation and you're able to get A.J. Brown isolated and you pepper him with targets like you should, like the passing attack is always going to get better. But there were still some of those underlying, like especially in the second half, I felt like, and in the third quarter specifically, like Hurts took his pocket movement wasn't ideal. Like he took that sack to TJ Watt where he kind of tried to escape out the back door and kind of ran right into Watt and almost fumbled. One time he scrambled and he did fumble because Watt was able to punch it out. So I think there's still some things that Hurts kind of struggled with in this game in terms of pocket movement. But quarterback is just, I know I compared them to Jesus the other day and the head coach to God. And to some extent that's true. Like the team is your head coach, right? The personality of that guy it kind of, goes throughout the whole program or franchise. And the quarterback is known as a coach on the field and they can call audibles and it's their job to distribute to everybody. So they are more important. But at the end of the day, I do think quarterback is just one unit. It's just that unit is one player. And if Hurts is struggling just a little bit and is like not that bad or doing some things well and maybe some things poorly, the Eagles are so good in front seven and secondary and skill position and offensive line that I think Hurts, he really is struggling, I think, in some ways. But it doesn't really make me think that the Eagles are like cooked or anything, because I just don't think a quarterback can really sink this team, especially when that quarterback is still as good as Jalen Hurts is, which he's not bad by any stretch.
He's got some drawbacks for sure, but at the same time, the passing game has been, kind of overall not horribly inefficient, even when taking into account the last, 4 weeks before this. They're averaging like 8 yards a throw still. Mm-hmm. Hurts is still a guy who's sitting on probably 3,500 yards right now and 32 touchdowns and like 7 turnovers. I know that's simpleton numbers, but when we're talking about a guy who would sink an offense as good as the Eagles right now, like that's not going to be nearly enough. And Jalen is capable of play that's up and down, but better than it's necessarily been recently. And him being a super physical runner is something you have to account for, and does add a lot to this offense, even if maybe there's some limitations over the middle of the field or some limitations when it comes to like how he manages the pocket, like you said.
Yeah, he has a 9.6% sack rate this year, which is a career high.
Wow.
Which is probably his main issue. I think another issue with him that sorry to nitpick everybody, but one thing I noticed in this game is I questioned how good of a creator he is. And I know that he's a physical runner and he can scramble, and like running QB power, he is a serious problem behind pulling guards. But you watch, I know he's an extreme example, but Josh Allen, when he scrambles out of the pocket and just chills on the sideline for a second and just hangs there and then throws across his body off of his back foot. Or you watch Jordan Love create out of structure, or Kyler or Lamar. And then Hurts just doesn't really have those moments where he scrambles, where it's off the back foot, oh my God, no. Up the sideline. That's another thing where it's I don't think the offense really benefits from him holding the ball as long as he's doing these days, because he's better getting it out fast. He's better as a pocket passer or a point guard than he is, someone who should be running around and throwing downfield. He was getting rid of the ball so much faster in 2022 than he is now. And I just feel like some of that could stand to come back to the offense. I didn't think they had any RPOs in the Pittsburgh game still. And that's kind of, I think, not been as much of a thing this year as in previous years. Again, I think the Eagles are extremely good. I think they could win the Super Bowl even if Hurts gets worse. He could stand to be worse than he is, and they're still extremely formidable. But just some observations, I guess, just watching this game.
No, I think that's all very fair criticisms of Jalen Hurts at this point. As big of a fan as I am, maybe I should have worn my jersey for this episode. But coming into this game, I was kind of conflicted on the outcome because it felt like it should be a close bout, like we mentioned, two teams that are both double-digit wins, top of their division, whatever. But there was just something about the way the Steelers played against Cleveland that I was like, all of their touchdowns kind of came off of just like dumb, busted coverages. They didn't really run the ball that well. And I'm like, against an Eagles defense that I think is better than Cleveland's at this point, and no George Pickens, it feels like a game that could end up being a blowout. And that's kind of what it devolved into. I am very worried about the Steelers going forward, even, as they get Pickens back. It just feels like their offense is so one-dimensional.
I mean, I'm not too worried. I mean, a Pickens-less game, it does flow through Pickens disproportionately. But I'm not too worried about them in the playoffs, any more than... Like, what do you mean? Do you think they'll get, beat in the wild card round? They're really
I don't know if they'll get beat in the... I don't know if they'll get beat in the wild card round. It depends on who they play. But if you face a team that is able to lock down Pickens, which very few teams are, obviously. But, if there's a team that's able to bracket and shut down George Pickens, then I don't know where the successful offensive plays are really coming from. Which, if the standard is, well, you need a good defensive line to stop the run, and you need a good set of bracket defenders to guard Pickens. There aren't a lot of teams that have that, but at the same time, I think that's the clear formula to beating the Steelers at this point.
Yeah, I can't disagree. They really haven't been the most efficient rushing team this year, and when they don't have Pickens, their offense just doesn't have any teeth. It's just what's the positive unit?
Right.
It's tough to find. I don't know what to say about being worried about them in the playoffs because, frankly, I just don't view them as a top contender. If they were to go out in the wild card round, I think that'd be disappointing, but I don't think that would be an exceptionally crazy outcome. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be a bummer, right? But if they made it past the divisional, I'd consider it a pretty big upset, to be completely honest with you. They've got the potential in them to do it. It's Pittsburgh. They're well coached. They close out close games tough. Their defense is phenomenal. Being able to go toe-to-toe with the Eagles and, shut down Saquon as much as you possibly can, that stuff's impressive. But they're working with an incredibly limited offense with incredibly limited weapons.
Right now, they would play Denver.
They would play Denver.
And that wouldn't be a bad matchup. That'd be a weird game. That would be a weird game.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
Oh yeah, I think it would be a fun one. I'm actually less worried about the weapons than I am about the offensive line, I think, and then the commitment to a bad running game. The weapons with Pickens, I can once he's back, it's okay. Freiermuth is good. And he had a good game against the Eagles. And Calvin Austin has been pretty good as well as a kind of a complementary deep threat to stretch the field opposite of Pickens. When they're both out there together with Freiermuth in the seam and the running backs are good pass catchers as well. I actually think the weapons are they're not the Eagles. God no.
Yeah.
Or the Vikings or the Texans or the Rams with Nakua and Cup maybe, but it's not bad. But I think the thing that stood out to me in this Eagles game is okay, Broderick Jones is still their right tackle instead of Troy Fautanu, and Nolan Smith was getting after him, and Sweat was getting after Dan Moore, and Milton Williams had some wins against Suomala. Like, it's just not. I thought that aspect was kind of failing in a way, and then I kind of remembered, like, right, Steelers fans hated their offensive line for so many. They hate Dan Moore, those fans. Like, they don't think he's that very good. Broderick Jones, he was a disaster earlier in the season, right? He's still a weakness point, right? So to me, it's the weapons being maybe good, not great, and then the offensive line being, very okay. Mm-hmm. Those two things combined makes me think, like, okay, they're probably not going to make a whole ton
You
of
mentioned
noise.
the commitment to a bad rushing attack.
Yeah,
Right.
And that, I think, is a product of the offensive line that they have, because you look at the guys that they have, it's built to run the ball. That's an offensive line that is built to run the ball. It's a power, like, big brute strength and power offensive line, and they've got a power running back in Najee, and which sometimes he doesn't play like it. And then they've got, Warren, who's kind of the speed complement to him. And honestly, he can be more of a power back than Najee sometimes. But I feel like the offensive line and their back duo is built to run the ball. It just hasn't been super effective this year.
Here's the number for you.
Yeah.
Second in rushing attempts per game behind only the Eagles. 30th in rushing yards per attempt.
Yeah,
not good.
There is your problem. Like, that is why the Steelers feel so low ceiling, is they're just built like a crocodile, like their offense is from the 1940s. It should have been extinct a long time ago, and it's not. It just keeps hanging around. Mike Tomlin is like, okay, we're going to lounge around in shallow water and just not exert that much energy and just survive the thing over the course of the year. And then he does, and they win. But it's like,
and people are afraid of them. Like,
but is the crocodile like a high ceiling animal? Like,
I don't know, man. It's like, you're not going to be a very high ceiling team doing this crap. It's going to be like defense go and win us the game a lot of the times. Yeah. And the Steelers are a team that it feels like oftentimes is like, like making the big plays more often than not. Like, they always get the swing plays. Maybe that's like just sort of a bias, but it just feels like,
I think.
Yeah, it's like they're a big getting the swing plays team. Even in this one, I think they had a fumble, but they got two from the Eagles.
Yeah, if
like, it wasn't the cleanest Philadelphia game.
Did the Steelers have a couple special teams blunders that I'm remembering?
I'm trying to remember. I thought that DeJean muffed a punt. So
okay.
That's the special teams blunder that immediately comes to mind. Boswell doinked one off the crossbar. You might be thinking of that. He kicked it, and it was like the ugliest PAT or something ever, or short field goal. I can't quite remember. It was like this total curveball that doinked off the upright, but it went in. It banked in. It was just a very ugly kick. I don't know if they had any.
I remembered there being something, and I just now remembered that I was gonna tweet out like Steelers special teams blunder, but I can't remember what it was.
He was 2 for 2 kicking field goals, Boswell, and he banked that extra point in. They got a muffed punt, so I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know what it would have been. Big. I can't remember. Before we move on, I do want to bring up, while I'm looking at the thing, you know who's second in rushing yards per attempt this year? Tampa Bay.
Liam Cohen, baby.
Bucky.
They're saying Bucky. What he does.
Baker's gravity.
They were dead last year. They were dead last by like kind of a lot. They were the biggest disaster.
Really bad.
And the only team they're behind is the Ravens, and that like doesn't count because it's Lamar bullshit. So they're really first.
Rushing attempts.
I have no idea. I don't have it. Hold up. I actually do have it up.
Guessing not that high.
12th. That's normal.
That's not bad.
I've got to dive deep and do a Graham Barton review here pretty soon to see what kind of effect he's having on the running game. I loved him
You're
so
gonna
much.
You're going to learn it's all Bucky, unfortunately.
Graham Barton Graham Barton does not have a good PFF grade, and he's 60th out of 61 centers in terms of penalties. So we'll see. But if they're that good in yards per attempt, I have to imagine Grant Barton is doing something. That's my guy.
Or Bucky's going to the Hall.
That or Bucky's going to the Hall. I mean, Bucky is that guy, so maybe
he's been good this year. Shout out Matt for calling that. If you're like me, always looking for an edge in sports betting, then you know how important it is to have the right strategy. So when I heard that Masterclass had a class on beating the odds, taught by the pros who've made millions, I had to check it out. It's exactly what I needed to level up my game. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. The platform has over 200 classes from some of the world's most successful professionals, and for just $10 a month, you get access to every class from high-stakes sports betting to mastering data-driven strategies. Masterclass is available on your phone, your computer, or even on your TV. And for those looking to sharpen their betting skills, these classes are a game changer. Forget relying on lucky jerseys. Learn how the pros manage risk, evaluate data, and make tactical decisions. 88% of members say Masterclass has positively impacted their lives, and I think you guys will be no different. I'm confident that taking this class will give you the confidence and insights you need to make better decisions and sharpen your skills. Masterclass right now is offering up to 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/stayhot to take advantage of this deal. Again, that is masterclass.com/stayhot. Don't miss out on this chance to level up your skills. And remember, always bet responsibly. Sports betting involves risk, and you are responsible for complying with all local laws. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of live events, whether it's a concert, a big game, or even a comedy show. The energy and excitement are unmatched. I still remember the time I went to the Browns game this year, and I got to watch my Browns beat up on the Baltimore Ravens. It was truly an unforgettable experience. That's why I'm always looking forward to making new memories, and Game Time makes it so easy. With Game Time, I'm able to grab tickets for any upcoming event using their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out all the extra stuff and only shows you the best deals on amazing seats, so you don't waste time. I found a super deal that was hard to beat, and the best part is you can see seat views before you buy. No surprise fees with all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee gives me peace of mind. If I find a cheaper ticket elsewhere, I get 110% back. So if you want the best deal on your next event, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code BLAIDENK, that's BLAIDENK, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download Game Time today. What is it? Game Time. Theo, shall we move on to your Green Bay Packers and their absolute demolition of the Seattle Seahawks?
Josh Jacobs, baby. What a signing.
Yeah. I really like him. He's a good runner.
He's a great runner, and he's so durable. Like, you just hand it to him, throw it to him. He ends up with like 30 touches a game, and he's breaking all these tackles. It's just insane. They go on these fuck you drives where all they do is hand it to him, like the whole way down the field. And I'm sitting there, and they hand it to him again, and I'm like, there's just no way he picks up any positive yardage because there's like a run blitz on, and you know, it doesn't look like there's anything there. And then like he just kind of like squirts through to the other side somehow. I mean, he's got so much toughness between the tackles, and then he can also just break your ankles in the open field. He's hit some of the nastiest jukes this year. He made, I think it was Tyrese Knight, like fly off of his back early in this game. Like he just kind of ducked and then stood back up, and like the guy like was like a bull rider getting flung off the bull. He's just an absolute force of nature on the gridiron. I love Josh Jacobs. He is Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in like one person. There's no need to split
that's what
them.
you always needed. That's what you always needed. I always see people on TikTok. They'll be like playing a Madden run cheeser and beating him. And all the comments are like, it doesn't look like he's cheesing. It just looks like he's cooking your ass, dude. And that's kind of what the Packers feel like with Josh Jacobs. It's nothing tricky. They're just cooking you.
I like that run cheeser. It's especially
They are run merchants.
That's okay. I could be a run merchant.
Nothing wrong. I respect a heavy run game.
I thought the run game was solid. You know, Jacobs has his moments, and this was a good Love game. Any game where Love plays like a clean game, he doesn't have the blunders, is usually going to be a good one. But I thought the story of this thing was the Seahawks offensive line was just terrible. And you really get to see that put on display when Sam Howell comes in. I mean, I don't mean to rag on him too much, but like him coming in and immediately taking 2 sacks is like, it's about exactly what you would expect.
So bad.
He really is. And it's not that long ago that, you know, people were saying he should start over Geno Smith. I don't even, like, honestly watching that, I don't even know if Howell was really a great guy for the Seahawks to go get as like their backup plan. I mean, I guess I don't want to hate too much, but his ability to like sense and deal with pressure combined with that offensive line was a disaster. Granted, Geno was also running for his life the entire game. Mind you, this is against a Packers defense that hasn't been generating pressure that easily. I mean, Rashawn Gary was cooking, and he's been kind of quiet all year. That's the big thing that holds back Seattle, and we were talking about that before the season. I know they've been banged up at certain spots, but the right side of their offensive line is just terrible. It can't hold up. It can't play at a serious level. And I think, you know, I haven't checked on what their playoff standings are right now, because the Rams are also 8-6, so they lead, but the Seahawks got to be really close, like a game out of both the wild card and that. But if they get in there, I'd be worried that's what's going to sink them.
Yeah, the
Seahawks and Rams are both 8-6 right now, but the Rams beat the Seahawks, so they have the lead.
Gotcha.
And I feel like the problem is just as severe in the run game. I mean, Kenneth Murray, he's a linebacker for the Titans. Kenneth Walker, K9. I mean, I know he hasn't played recently, but he's averaging 3.7 yards per carry, and he breaks like more tackles than everybody else. And that's still the case. I mean, he hasn't been above 4 yards per attempt since October 20th versus Atlanta. And I know he's been hurt recently, but still, it prevents them from running as much play action as they probably should and keeping the heat off Geno as much as they probably should. It just is so much pressure on Smith and the receiving core to generate just a ton of explosives dropping back and facing the heat of the pass rush over and over and over again, because the run game just is not where it needs to be at all from a design standpoint and from a just a talent standpoint up front. And that's a major problem for them. They're so hamstrung by that. And then, like you said,
yeah.
Or go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, I feel like this could be a really cool offense if you have Geno and receivers. Like, maybe you don't have somebody who is like a crazy, like, top 5 at their position guy. But you've got a lot of talent outside of the offensive line. And Geno, his high end it could be a really, really great season. But you're just not going to see that if they're going to war every single play, and you can never have anything easy.
Yeah, it feels like they're playing like the Tom Brady, Bruce Arians offense, you know, like from 2020 or 2021 when they had no running game and Brady just dropped back a bunch. But like when Brady was doing that, like, sure, he had Mike Evans and Godwin, and the Seahawks have some guys who are comparable to that. But he had like Wirfs and Jensen and like good offensive linemen to do that with. And the Seahawks are trying to play that style with like guys who are just getting shredded. So it's no good. They've got an uphill battle now to work their way back in front of the Rams. And I just don't know if they've got it with some of the flaws that they have. But, you know, the defensive line is showing out. Geno, he got hurt in this game, but he is practicing again. I always think they've got a chance when their passing offense is so explosive, or it can be so explosive. I mean, JSN is fully breaking out. He reminds me a little bit of like Devontae Adams these days. Like the catch radius, what he does with the ball in his hands, the route running, the head fakes. Like it is.
He's a beast.
He is a complete total package right now. Unguardable right now. So like they've some aspects are really going well, but yeah, it's the same story as it's been the last 2 years now.
Yeah, they've got Vikings, Bears, and Rams coming up, and their final game against the Rams is on the road.
Vikings is a tough one. It's not a good matchup for them. It doesn't feel like. Bears, you can probably, I mean, if you're serious about making the playoffs with how they're playing right now, you got to get them. And then Rams. I mean, maybe it's good that you play the Rams again and you get a chance to decide them. But it is good.
I mean, they need to win that game.
So we'll see. They're an up and down team, and I think that's not surprising when you have a lot of talent, but you won't be able to get anything easy because you don't have a good offensive line. And you have a really bad offensive line. That's detrimental, like every single play, no matter who you're against, you know?
Mm-hmm. I want to talk, you mentioned Jordan Love not turning the ball over. I want to point out that he hasn't done it in a month.
Wow,
not turned
really?
the football over in a month. He's done it once since the bye. He has been, I would say, definitely a top 5 quarterback since week 10, since the bye.
When was Toyota on?
Well, it's here, and yeah, he has been playing at a pretty unbelievable level recently. I mean, they've put up 30 points 4 straight weeks. Like I said, no turnovers. He's taken just 11 sacks all year. There's just no negative plays with him. Only Josh Allen avoids negative plays at a higher rate this year than Jordan Love in terms of fumbling, interception, sacks. So, and he is crazy out of structure. I mentioned how Hurts doesn't really do anything that wild when he breaks the pocket throwing the ball. I mean, Jordan Love does. He will throw it off his back foot. He will throw it while getting hit. He will throw it across his body and complete all of these things. Like he's one of the best in the league breaking the pocket and throwing. He had a free play to Kraft that was unbelievable. Like free runners in his face. And obviously he knew that it was a free play, but to throw it up like he did, like off of his back foot, jumping and getting it downfield in the perfect spot to Kraft, to throw to Watson. Like he is elite. I said it on Twitter, and this guy was calling me biased, but he is an elite quarterback when he's not turning the football over. I mean, when he was earlier this year, he was not playing at an elite level because of all that, but right now he is, and I can kind of explain away some of the turnovers in the decision making because of the groin injury, and he, was maybe trying to do some special things when he didn't have that ability because of the injury. Now he looks totally healthy and he's dominant. So I'm really, really excited about him. He looks like he did at the end of last Toyotathon Love. Shout out Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, they're going to call you biased because it's the Packers, but I mean, ultimately, he does have those blunders, and maybe if you feel like you're, okay, he did. He's a different guy now.
He's a different guy now.
He's changed.
Like, obviously, if you're going on like a big playoff run, consistency is the thing that you got to have, right? You can't have one game where it's like all of a sudden you throw 2 dumb picks, because that can cost you, and who knows how many possessions you get. But at the same time, the sack avoidance is crazy. The interceptions is something that I feel like matters a lot, but can be ironed out as his career goes on. I mean, we're on start number probably 25, 30 with Love. We're still really early into this thing. Yeah. So I have a lot of faith in him to continue to grow and get better. And even this year, after a rough start and an injury, he started to look really, really good down the stretch. And again, if he's not turning the ball over, he's really doing just about everything you want to see. So I'm on board with you.
Yeah, I think their offense has down the stretch here, it could be the most dangerous in the entire NFL. I mean, LaFleur is an absolute wizard. And Love is playing, I think, I would say at an MVP level recently, not over the course of the whole season, but recently he's been amazing. And I think with Jacobs playing the way that he is, it's just a very dangerous formula. But I still am worried about the defense. Yeah. I just don't see like overall talent there. I mean, when I was looking at some of the best players on recent Super Bowl winners, and it's obviously like Chris Jones, Aaron Donald on the Rams, Stephon Gilmore when he was so locked down on the Patriots. Like that Bucks team had Levante David and Vita Vea and Antoine Winfield Jr., who is a great rookie, and Devin White was playing at a really high level in that playoff run. It's like, do the Packers have those superstars? I mean, there's some. X is really good. Xavier McKinney. I mean, Jair hypothetically is really, really good, but he's just been hurt all year. I know he's back at practice, but can we count on him for a playoff run? I'm excited about Edgerrin Cooper, who has come in and made a huge impact. Like, he looks like he can really solidify the linebacker spot. And I looked it up on True Media. When Quay Walker is not on the field, the Packers have they have the best defense in the league. They're number one in EPA by like twice as much as the next best team. Their havoc rate is unbelievable. Now,
what's the sample size on that?
I don't know how many total snaps it is, but it's 86 passes. So it's not crazy. Okay. But the point I'm making is, like, we need someone to step up in the linebacker room, because Quay Walker is not that guy this year. And like, if Cooper can be what we thought Quay Walker was when we picked him in the first round, like, that's immediately helpful. Him and Eric Wilson is probably the duo I'd like to roll with.
Eric Wilson out there. He's not a bad player.
Yeah, those two, like, when it's McDuffie and Quay Walker, we legitimately are the worst hook defense in the entire league. Like, 2 weeks in a row, we allowed more throws to the middle of the field than anyone else in the league this year, like in any game. And we did it 2 weeks in a row. And then we get like Cooper and Wilson out there, and, we're locking down Geno and everything looks great. So it's like, okay, just keep those two out there from this point going forward.
Did Eric Wilson happen to play for the Cincinnati Bearcats?
We can't know. We can't know. Yes, he did. Yes.
I just saw Matt's face when talking about Eric
Wilson actually is like not a bad player, though. I really do mean that. And like, you're right about Quay Walker. Yeah. But yes, I'm hyping up Eric Wilson because he went to Cincinnati.
That's fair. I just saw your face. I was like, I wonder, man.
Yeah. That was a while ago.
Okay.
But I have to say, I'm very excited for the NFC playoffs. I'm excited for the playoffs in general. I think this is going to be a good playoff year. You've got a lot of teams that either can go on a run or make some noise or pull off an upset. Like, even with the Packers, like, I agree with you. I think you've just got a lot of people underperforming what they need to do on defense individually. And you can totally see, like, just the pass rush not getting home one day, and Love has a bad pick or two, and like, that's it. But at the same time, man, it's like, if you told me they got hot, they're a team that totally could get hot and go to the Super Bowl. They're good enough to do that.
I agree.
I believe it.
And at the same time, there's just not a lot of great defensive players in the NFC. Like, I say that, I wish the Packers had a better best defensive player. I wish they had like a true, like, superstar Hall of Famer on that side of the ball. But then you look around the NFC and it's like, well, what team does have that? I mean, I look at the defensive player of the year odds. It's TJ Watt. He's in the AFC. Surtain and Bonino. He's in the AFC. There's Anderson and Daniil Hunter. They're in the AFC. Guess who it is after that? It's Xavier McKinney. So do the Packers have the best defensive player in the conference? Maybe
you have to say yes.
Maybe I'm underrated.
I don't know. I feel like the Eagles. Well, it was supposed to be Hutchinson on the lines. I feel like the Eagles. I mean, Bond's been great this year. Jalen Carter's been really good this year as well, and their defense overall has been awesome.
Their young corners have been outstanding.
Yeah, their corners have been really good too.
Grenard on the Vikings maybe is.
Grenard's been a beast. Yeah,
but are they at I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't judge the Packers defense as harshly as I have been. I was looking at their numbers today. They're actually top 10 in a lot of important categories to me, like EPA per play. They're top 10 in defensive EPA per play now.
Yeah.
It's very turnover dependent. Okay. They are not consistently good as much as they just get the big plays. I do think that the pass rush is kind of a fatal flaw But I know I've been, hemming and hawing about them all year and just not really wanting to commit to the defense. The Packers as a Super Bowl contender because of it. But, maybe I should defend.
Theo, would you like to know an ugly stat, which I'm sure you already know?
Sure.
The Packers' EPA per play, 7th for defense. Their success rate, 25th.
Yeah, I didn't know the success rate was that low.
Yeah.
That is what it feels like, right? I mean, even in that Seahawks game, they go down to the red zone, and then Geno Smith throws a pick there, like Carrington Valentine got one, and it's like, oh, that's great. But is that something we can bank on, or is that something that can go away very quickly when you play, the Eagles?
Right.
Like, I don't think we picked them off week 1. So, but they're strong contenders. They're maybe not in that tier 1 with the Eagles, but like the Lions are getting to be too banged up these days to be like David Montgomery's out for the year now, and Oli McNeil got hurt.
He's out for the year. Wow.
Yeah. So
I think he MCL.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So they're kind of falling, and the Packers are right there. So I guess I am still in on them, but it's been too long that I've yapped about them. So let's move on to the next game.
So that would take us to Commanders and Saints, if you would like to talk about Jaden Daniels getting sacked 8 times.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's too many times. That's too many times.
So they're saying. I've seen my quarterback get sacked 8 times, but we didn't win that game. So how did they manage to pull it off despite that many sacks, that many pressures?
Well, a couple of their sacks were like 0-yard sacks, like where Jaden would like kind of run, and then he'd like not really get even touched or hit. He would just like run out of bounds at 0 yards, and that counted for 2 of their sacks.
Okay.
But I thought their biggest issue in this game was the pass protection plans. Like, I talked about this on TikTok. They were unnecessarily providing chip help for their offensive line. Like, they'd keep Bates, the tight end, into block, and they'd take Brian Robinson into block. So they'd have 6 blocking, and there'd be 4 rushers, which means it was 7-on-4 in the secondary, or 7-on-3 in the secondary. So what you'd get is like Jaden would play fake. The guy you fakes it to like starts blocking or something, and the tight end starts blocking. He turns around, and the chip help has not actually blocked anybody, and no one downfield is open. So then he probably could have looked at the check down a little bit more than he did, but he's like, I'm going to make plays with my legs. No one's open downfield. So instead of throwing it, he scrambled. Overall, I think that was a huge positive in this game. Like, he made a ton of great scrambles that, to me, was able to overcome the lost yardage due to the sacks. So I actually think he played a pretty good game and overcame kind of a bad game plan. And, they missed some field goals, and it ended up being really close. But it wasn't quite as close as the score suggested, because I thought that Jaden kind of put the team on his back a little bit, to be quite honest with you.
There we go. Yeah, I've said this before. I think Jaden Daniels, like, the hot start that he had was good to see. But I think he's been playing better since things have gotten harder for him in the offense, even though the numbers haven't been as good. So
I don't disagree. I mean, this game against the Saints, he was under constant duress. He is under constant, even with all the chip help, he was under constant duress. And he was like throwing jump passes over the pressure, and he was like making people miss, and he was like, making accurate throws under pressure as well. Versus like the Bengals in week 3 or the Cardinals in week 4. I mean, those were crazy games from him, but there was also just not even a smidgen of like resistance for him. So for him to do what he did in this game, I was more impressed now, and I'm more sold on him now than I was, in week 2. And part of that has to do with my draft evaluation and not wanting to like punt on it in week 2. Now I'm a little bit like,
No,
it has to happen. But
no, I think it's fair. Like in the early part of the season, there was a lot of point and shoot and a lot of, areas where
and a
the
lot of quick game
scrambling was used as
or screens.
a lot of point and shoot, a lot of screens, a lot of designed QB runs, a lot of stuff that just like it put a lot. They used his strengths well. But it was just a lot of easy button stuff for him, and that was well designed. Like that was a good game plan to go with in a way that we saw like Caleb Williams. I mean, they were like hard stuff immediately, like nothing easy. You are going to go out there and like live and die by if you're good or not, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of, Jaden Daniels has kind of had to put the team on his back a little bit more, and I think he's been better for it. The scrambling has been used more as a superpower and less as a crutch, which I think has been good to see. So,
I agree.
Yeah, I didn't catch too much of this one, but I agree.
You didn't watch Jake Haener, Matt?
No, I didn't. How was Haener?
Bad. He got benched for Rattler in the second half.
Shout out Rattler.
And Rattler actually played pretty decent, I thought. He had one crazy ass throw. He didn't have the most consistent game, and I think he had some drop picks, but he had a throw where he climbed the pocket like so severely that he almost ran into his center guard or something, So he was like kind of throwing like right on the butt of his guard and kind of had to like hop and throw it over him. So he climbed the pocket, threw it from a really tight space, and he threw a post to Valdez-Scantling, I believe, in like double coverage, and he like nailed it. I was like, what the hell? I mean, it was, and you see those on his South Carolina tape, is like he's capable of some insane things. And that was one of them. That was a phenomenal throw. And once they put him in the game, things got a lot better. Jake Haener was not it. I mean, first of all, he was visibly tiny, like Bryce. Like Bryce is visibly small, and it's like I think Haener even looked like skinnier and less, like even a more, a tinier person back there. And then like every time he tried to create, he'd like slip and fall down. he was like on his ass and then would like get back up and try to throw. It was pretty ugly. He threw some bad picks, one to Sandra Still, and he had a nice little Texas route to Alvin Kamara early in the game, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling also threw a touchdown to Alvin Kamara, which was pretty sweet.
I forgot he even went to the Saints.
Yeah, and he's been balling.
Or was it Cedric Wilson?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
I'm seeing Cedric Wilson did throw a 21-yard touchdown pass.
Oh, then it was my bad, everybody.
Never mind.
Still, Haener was the third best quarterback in this game, I'm afraid.
4 for 10, 49 yards and a pick, 3 sacks.
And a half.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're really a heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare ya. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's gotta be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's locations.
Do we want to move on to the Monday night games?
Sure. The games that saved my fantasy life in the 32 team. Should we start with Ritter? The Ritter masterclass, some would say.
I don't know why some would say that. I mean, I didn't think it was that good of a game that he played. He kind of pulled it together at the end a little bit, and I mean, gave him a couple of like decent throws to try to win the game in the end zone, like 25 yards out. But for the most part, I mean, Ritter really is not that mobile, and he doesn't do very well under pressure.
No.
That's the thing that kills him. That kills like a lot of backup quarterbacks, obviously, but most of the time, like, he doesn't have the the quick fire to get it out of there, or the pocket maneuverability, even like stepping up and through. And that limits a ton of what you're going to be able to do. He also had like a really bad interception trying to throw something up the seam. Like that was a really particularly terrible interception. I mean, even the announcers were just like, what the hell was he thinking, which was tough to see. And I don't know how many sacks he took, but it felt like a lot. And it felt like a lot of plays got blown up because there was pressure. And it felt like more plays got blown up. Granted, he's, it's a tough situation and he's a backup and all that stuff, but he's still my dog. So
he did outplay Kirk Cousins. You know what? I think
that's the bigger story from this game. We're starting off with Desmond Ridder because of me. We shouldn't do that.
Well, hold on. I have more to say about Ridder. I think you're downplaying his performance a little bit.
See, I don't think this was that great of a performance.
Well, it wasn't.
Look, he had a couple of nice throws. He had that. He had a couple of like nice hole shots. Like he had some genuinely. Yeah, he had a couple of really nice ones. Like Ridder was drafted for a reason, and genuinely and honestly, you give him 30 more seconds, he probably gets the win. They probably could have. Well, they just ran out of time. Really, that's all it was.
They ran out of time. Late in the game, they started going West Coast, and he was picking them apart. They just didn't They didn't take the leash off of him early enough. Like they were at the 1 yard line and they handed it off twice and they got a safety. Like they should have let Ridder cook there.
Their offensive line really sucks. Their run game really sucks.
Touchdown. It was terrible.
That Raiders team is bad, dude.
But after that drive, they started like manufacturing a run game by doing these little like, short out routes and swing passes to Abdullah. Just like get him out in space and try and see if he can make a man miss, because it's better to do that than try and run behind this offensive line, I guess.
Ridder was sold by his field position. He was sold by a Jacoby Myers trick play. He led the team in rushing yardage. He carried.
Oh yeah.
I actually didn't think it was that. I mean, the pick was atrocious, and if it wasn't for that pick, I would say that Ridder played even good, but that pick demotes it to a bad performance. But he still outplayed Kirk, and because I'm on this show, I'm gonna say
you can say that he outplayed Kirk. I mean, the numbers don't disagree with you here, right? 208 passing yards to 112. The QBR difference, like Desmond Ridder had a 27 QBR.
9 to 27.
And Kirk Cousins' QBR was 9.
Cousins.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I've been covering Cousins' flaws this year. How everything is underthrown. How he's a horrible statue in the pocket. I mean, that's been obvious since week 1. The pick that he threw in this game, like, there was a crease that he could have stepped up into if he could step up, but he can't. So instead he like contorts his lower body so he can get a throw off instead of like sliding. His base is like pointed towards like Afghanistan instead of his target. and then it's not accurate, shockingly.
It's the exact same thing every time. His lack of mobility, like his total lack of like maneuverability, almost, that's like different than mobility, right? He can't maneuver at all, and that manifests itself not in him like necessarily just sitting in there and getting like walloped every time, but in him like sort of getting weirdly off of his base and standing in there and making a throw. Like he knows he can't just take a million sacks, so he's got to let the ball go, but it leads to these sort of like weirdo interceptions like the one that he threw in this game.
And I'm thinking about that interception now, and I'm thinking about how it happened. And it's not even that it was an inaccurate ball per se, because like he had
the timing. It's the timing is totally screwed.
You need to hold the ball to influence the underneath defenders. Like if you need to step up and you need to get them to move, and then you need to throw to the guy you want to throw to. You can't. If you can't move at all, everyone can just kind of stay where they're at, I feel like. And that's what happened. Yeah. And Spillane was just able to jump the route. Like, if he was able to step up into that pocket or if Penix is back there now, like let's say Penix can run a little bit according to his 40 time. We didn't see it much at Washington, but maybe he's got to have a little bit more to him than Cousins, right? Let's say he steps up and Spillane is looking at him, and now he's like stepped up or peeled off or something like that. Then all of a sudden you're like moving around, and then you can throw it to that guy who's sitting down versus zone coverage. With Cousins, it's like drop back and just throw the most basic vanilla look ever. And these coverage defenders like just are jumping everything that he's doing because he just can't hold the ball long enough to influence them in any way. He can't move around and influence them with his, they've got eyes on him, right? So if he moves, they're going to move. Like, that's what makes all these great quarterbacks just so deadly. Like, even Tom Brady at the end was good at maneuvering the pocket and, like, stepping up and climbing and moving around. Like, you have to have that to you. And Kirk Cousins just doesn't, on top of all the arm strength limitations. Just truly one of the. I don't know how he put up 500 yards against the Bucks. I saw that performance. I'm trying to remember. Like, it just doesn't make any sense now.
No, he's looked absolutely horrible, and they did eventually decide to start Michael Penix. That is going to be the quarterback this week, so we'll finally.
I saw the analytics bros praising them still for doubling down on quarterback. No,
you saw
sorry.
Was it Ben Baldwin that was like, I was told that them drafting Penix was a bad move. And they just they don't get that the bad move wasn't BS. The bad move wasn't that they drafted Penix. The bad move is that they both spent $180 million on Kirk Cousins and drafted a quarterback in the first round. Like, there is no need to do both. Now, it turns out that the quarterback that they spent $180 million on is bad. And so it's like, well, thank God they got this other guy. But, like, the reality is they should have just not brought in Kirk Cousins. That was the bad move.
The problem with what they did, like, I get doubling up at quarterback. I understand there's times where it can make sense for a certain price. Like, and you see other teams bring in a vet and have a rookie. Both can be done. But when you spend $180 million on one guy and a top 10 pick on another, you are guaranteeing that you are throwing away a major either capital or a major draft pick on a player who's not going to play for you. And when you're trying to win a Super Bowl, automatically putting yourself in that situation is bizarre. Like, you're eliminating the ceiling outcome, which would be drafting a young guy and he's good and you don't have to pay him that much, right?
Yes.
I think, like, you look at, and this is maybe hindsight 2020. It is. But you look at the Vikings, they did both. But the difference is that Darnold is on a contract where if he didn't work out, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't be on the hook for years and years. Atlanta's on the hook for years and years now. And ultimately, the only scenario in which you would have, like, been happy that you signed Cousins is the world where Cousins is good and Penix is bad. And the ceiling on that scenario is probably just, like, not Super Bowl winning level. And I don't think catering to it makes any sense to me. People were mad at the Penix pick, and, like, we were too. But ultimately, I think what made people mad about the Penix pick more than the Cousins signing is that the Penix pick happened second. People would have said the Penix pick was fine if the Cousins signing came after it, and then the Cousins signing would have been the big deal.
Yes.
So you can double up, but you can't. This is the most that anybody has ever doubled up before, and it's immediately gone into being a train wreck in terms of your first move. Now, luckily for them, as with any of these things, your process can stink. And if you drafted a good guy, none of it matters. If Penix is good, it's still annoying. It's still a major setback, but ultimately, like, any Falcons fan would take that deal right now pretty easily.
Yeah.
But it was still a very bad move to bring in Cousins and get Penix.
Yep.
Yeah, you'd be in a better spot now if you started Penix the whole way, and you'd have $100-something million to spend these next few years. It's just, I just don't see how it could be a positive to sign one of the worst QB deals in history was what the Cousins deal has ended up being. So it wasn't good from that standpoint. But we're in the Penix era. I think he's got a shot to fare okay because the situation is so good. Like, that's the thing about this game. Drake London looks just fantastic. He didn't get that many opportunities because Cousins was so bad, but it's like every time they throw to him, he just like rips the ball out of the air, and it's like a violent act the way he does it. And he's such a butter route runner for how big he is. Like he to me is, where does he rank among wide receivers? Drake London.
Oh man, wow, that's one of those ones where you have to sit down and really think about it, man.
I'm taking A.J. Brown above him, definitely. I'm taking Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson above him.
Sure.
I'm taking maybe Nico Collins above him.
What about Tyreek?
He said he wants to be a coach.
Tyreek.
Yeah, he tweeted that out today.
He wants to be a coach. Okay, Quitter, Tyreek. I'm putting Drake London above Quitter.
Give me a guy who wants to play.
Quitter Hill.
There's CD.
CD. Compact.
I was thinking about Drake London versus CD, and I'm like, I like CD Lamb a lot. I'm like, that's honestly kind of close to me in my head. Like,
Dude.
Drake London is damn good.
I'm not ready. I'm not quite ready to go right there.
I think I would say Pickens and Drake London are in a similar tier.
I think London is way clear of Pickens, like as a route.
Pickens
runner.
has the best
and
hands.
but London's right there. London like is just as good as like a contested catch guy. Plus, he's just got like way more route running chops than Pickens. It feels like to me. Like Drake London is elite to me. I don't know.
Drake London can do a lot of
beast.
things. We've talked like he's probably the most complete wide receiver in the NFL. Like I don't know if anyone can do more.
You guys overrate big body receivers. He's great. He's not this good. He's not better than CD.
No,
I don't think he's better.
I agree with you.
I will put CD above him, but I think those two are like they might be close in my personal ranking.
All right, I'm hoping he outproduces Darnell Mooney this year.
I mean, CD's not putting up,
He's playing with Cooper Rush.
1,600.
Not his fault.
Who is Drake London playing with for 3
Okay, what about
Cousins,
Amon-Ra?
though?
What about
I'm taking Drake over Amon-Ra St. Brown.
JSN.
I'm taking London over JSN. I think.
Terry McLaurin.
Oh, that's a good question. But I think I'm still taking London. I think. I don't know. That's an off-season project, maybe more than because I haven't done my
right. It's tough.
He's
it's
13th
tough to rank
in receiving yards right now. So I mean, it's not like totally insane.
Terrible.
He's got 7 touchdowns.
So he's the 13th best receiver.
And these
there's tight
box
ends
scores don't move
too.
me. Who has the movement skills and the catch radius and the route running chops? That's what
we don't care. We don't care, little bro. Yards.
Yeah, whatever. At any rate, he's a good guy to throw
really
to
good.
at any rate. He's better than he's better than Cortland Sutton, who Bo Nix has to throw to. He's his number one. I think he might even be a little bit better than McLaurin. And so I think he's the best wide receiver.
Better than what Drake May is throwing to.
He's better than what Drake May is throwing to. He's better than DJ Moore. And then there's Bijan to just hand it off to and throw to as well.
He had a big game. Shout out.
Yeah, he was
They should
fantastic.
give it to him 1,000,000 times. They should.
Yeah, so London, at any rate, Penix has a bunch of great players to get the ball to, and I think that is probably going to mean that he looks okay for a rookie. I mean, he's an older prospect. He's had a lot of time to sit. He's got superstars around him. I don't see the bar that he has to clear is so low because Cousins was just so bad. Like I'm kind of optimistic about how this is going to go. I think about what he did at Washington. It was just like, fuck it, Odunze is down there somewhere, ball, or McMillan or Polk. Like those were all contested catch guys catching slot fades over and over again, like Pitts, London. Like I feel like he's going to be in a nice little scenario for him.
I think it is a good situation. And I mean, at this point, he can't be worse than Cousins. I mean, that would be, if he's somehow worse than that would be insane. I mean, it would be one of the worst quarterback picks ever if he was worse than Cousins.
If he's worse than Cousins, that would be hilarious that like they spent all these resources and both of them are horrible. It is a risk. It could happen. But I think that the star power is a bit too good.
He would be, I mean, what's the quarterback level that's worse than Cousins right now? It would be like Watson earlier in the year or like Bryce Young earlier in the, like.
Yeah, it would be like, I don't know. It would have to be like, he'd have to have like Anthony Richardson's accuracy with like, I don't know. He'd have to have some sort of, he would have to have some fatal flaw like that. Like Richardson, he'd have to be super inaccurate like Richardson, or just horrible pocket presence like Watson, or something would just have to be completely missing with him. That doesn't translate to the pro game. But he played with Ryan Grubb last offseason. That's straight up a pro offense now.
Right.
And I think he can execute. I think he's going to go in there and look okay. I'm feeling good.
All right.
Algier, so too? Algier's where does Algier rank amongst running backs, Blaiden?
I love Tyler Algier. I mean, I don't know if he's probably not top 10, but where's he ranking in yards right now? I'm probably not super high.
That's not how he's a backup.
I know. I'm just trying to think. Okay, so would I take him over Tony Pollard?
Yes.
Maybe. Chuba Hubbard, no. It's gotta be like, okay, I think the floor of guys is like Chase Brown.
Oh, he's like easily better than these
Chase
guys.
Brown, Rico Dowdle. I might take him over Aaron Jones at this point. Maybe Joe Mixon. I don't know if I would take him over Mixon. But like he's not better than any of like the real RB ones. Like he's not better than Saquon or Derek or Jacobs or Kyron or Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs or Hubbard or James Conner or Jonathan Taylor.
I think he's pretty similar to like James Conner and Kyron. I think like he's kind of like those guys.
But he's not better than those.
Maybe
guys.
he's not. Yeah, he's
probably like the 13th or 14th best back in football.
But he had a play against the Raiders where he like got met by two different Raiders and they both hit him like from two different sides in the backfield, and he like bounced off both of them and picked up the first down. And it's like, how do you even break that tackle? That's like 600 pounds of person who are professional tacklers that both just hit you at the same time, and it like didn't phase him whatsoever. Like who else is doing that right now? It's like he seems like a special kind of just bowling ball. But at any rate,
tough back, man. He's kind of, him and Najee kind of in the same archetype, except I think Algier plays his role better.
I agree.
But that would bring us to the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I was really, and maybe it was just because my fantasy game, I was really hoping that Caleb Williams was going to look better against this Vikings defense. But, man, I mean, they just got absolutely slaughtered, it felt like every time that they tried to put anything together on off. I mean, just nothing. They had nothing to offer. It was bad. It was rough.
I agree. They did get slaughtered, and it was bad, and it was.
I'm trying to think of like other words to describe how bad it was. It was just like
apocalypse.
I think their offensive line really sucks.
It is a bad offensive line,
as per usual. I think sometimes they also struggle to get the ball out quickly. I thought Caleb's like high end stuff in this game still looks like really good. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has some moments where he's like twisting and spinning and getting out of the pocket and still making a throw. And it's like, dude, that looks like the first overall pick on some plays. But there's just no like consistency in this offense, and there's no like hitting the easy button. It feels like everything is really difficult. Everything is it feels like big dropbacks, you know. And I think that just makes things tough for them.
Yeah. I mean, their first 5 drives went turnover on downs, fumble, punt, turnover on downs.
They also in this game, to be fair, they did have a lot of moments where it's like they go on a drive and then they turn over on downs. I think they had like 3 turnovers in their first 4 drives. There's a world where this game is closer than it was. But at the same time, they're like not making plays like that. Or they're doing things like on a 4th and 1 where like running Swift up the middle and he's not getting anywhere close to it because the offensive line gets blown up. It was rough.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of positives about anybody on the Bears. Their center is the worst of all time, though. Like, that was my main takeaway. I know that Caleb is the main storyline, obviously, but I just can't help but notice when, like, Coleman Shelton spends every single game, like, getting blown up by somebody comically and, like, ending up on his back. And then I think Caleb was just not seeing the field well and holding the ball too long. And, you know, it's against Flores' scheme. I mean, there's so many disguises. There's so many blitzes that you really have to be top notch at processing to see it for what it really is, you know? And once you do that, like, that's kind of the problem maybe with the Vikings is like against a really high level quarterback who's seen it all. They can kind of pull the paper bag off and see that the monster isn't like quite so scary. It's just like disguises and blitzes, but really it's just Tampa or something like that. But like with a rookie like Caleb, he just was not seeing that at all. And he was just seeing people moving and people coming at him and just like keeping it and holding it and not really making any type of read.
What Shane Waldron will do to a guy.
Yeah, and I'd like if he was reading the field a lot better than that. But I also think, I don't know, there's a lot wrong as opposed to just him. I'm not ready to write him off or to say that he sucks or shouldn't have been the first overall pick. We'll see.
No, I'm not ready to write him off either. I mean, but
this one I haven't gotten to the all 22 yet either. I'm stunting here off script, off broadcast. So
off broadcast, they were 1 for 12 on 3rd down. I think they started off 0 for 10 on 3rd. If I'm not mistaken.
Makes it tough.
Yeah, not a good offensive outing when you're not converting on 3rd down ever. But also you don't want to put yourself in those 3rd down situations. I haven't checked the numbers on this, but my guess is they're probably putting themselves in less than ideal 3rd downs by not having successful 1st and 2nd downs, which makes those 3rd downs harder.
Definitely.
So
you guys just want to hit the locks and get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it. I want to say one more thing about the Bears, though. Ryan Poles, count your days, buddy.
Yeah.
I thought even in this, like these last few weeks, even like Tremaine Edmonds has been brutal. Like just brutally bad. He's decent filling the run, but like in coverage, this strategy of just like they just can't do anything. They're like dropping to just seemingly random points and then just getting the ball thrown right over their heads. Like that first Justin Jefferson touchdown off play action, he ran a crosser. There's like 3 guys underneath. There's Byard, Edmonds, and TJ Edwards. Those are 3 big ticket signings. And none of them can like get their head around and locate a crosser running behind them. Like, how is it possible? It's been like that for weeks now. They've just been the linebacker play, the 2nd level play, which was supposed to be a strength and has been a strength for them in the past. But even that has like completely fallen apart. So with that being said, let's get into the locks.
All right. Well, Theo, the Stay Hot locks have been going very well for you this year. You're sitting at 22 points, while I have 12 and Matt has 11. So, Theo, you take your pick. What selection do you want?
I'll go first because I see I'll take the Bills over the Patriots.
All righty. You know, I think it's interesting. Someone did say that if whoever takes the Bills versus the Patriots, someone should challenge that pick. I'm not going to do it, but Matt, if you're interested.
No, I'm all good. Is it my pick?
I think it's mine because I have more points than you. But
Okay.
I guess Theo could decide if he wanted to.
You go.
I thought
You
it
go
was.
next.
I thought.
That makes sense.
I'll take the Packers over the Saints.
Sounds good. I'll go Bengals over the Browns, and give me the Falcons over the Giants.
Falcons over the Giants. Yeah, that makes sense. Go Penix. What do you got, Blaiden?
So my next pick will be I guess I will take that doesn't feel as safe as it should be. I'll take the Ravens over the Steelers.
Pickens is questionable.
I know.
If I knew Pickens was good to go, I might challenge you on that just because the Steelers always seem to do
Yeah.
But I'll take the Bengals over the Browns.
Matt already took that.
Oh. Why wasn't I paying attention?
I don't know, man.
I will take the Cardinals over the Panthers.
I don't
It's
know.
a fair one. I was thinking about it.
Wait,
Panthers don't feel like that safe to lock against, but
They're terrible. They're 3-11.
I'm just saying, like, they've had some close games.
Cooper
except
Rush
for
just
last
hung
week,
30 on them.
That's true, but
They've had a bunch of losses.
they have had a bunch of losses, haven't they? Are you going to be out, Theo?
I think so, but or I'll take the. Has anyone taken the Lions over the Bears?
No one has.
Okay, I'll take them and then be out.
Okay, that would have been my next pick. So now it gets tricky. Matt, we're trying to dig ourselves out of a hole here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start getting a little bit risky with which I've been getting risky already. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to take the Browns over the Bengals.
Okay.
I feel like that's a fair challenge.
No, I
DTR
think that
is
challenge
starting,
sucks. DTR is starting?
Yeah.
I feel like that makes their odds way worse.
Trust. So that brings it back to you.
It does. I'm trying to see what other games there are to pick.
Not a lot.
Not a lot of good options.
Not a lot of locks.
Okay, give me Philly over Washington.
That was what I was thinking about. You gonna take another?
Nah.
Okay. I was thinking about challenging you also, Theo, with the Panthers, but I won't do it. I'll restrict myself to just one challenge this week, and that'll do us for the Stay Hot locks. Theo has a commanding lead of 22 points. He's locking the Bills, Cardinals, and Lions. I'm sitting here with 12 points. I'm locking the Packers, Ravens, and the Browns, which is a challenge on Matt's lock. He has 11 points. He's taking the Bengals over the Browns, the Falcons, and the Eagles over the Washington Commanders. So that'll do it for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back to recap week 16 of the NFL season. Teams will start really locking up their playoff spots. We'll start locking up positioning. Going to be very exciting. We'll also have the first round of the college football playoffs coming up this weekend, which will be very exciting. So we'll probably recap some of those games, talk about those as well. But until then, from your favorite guys over here at Stay Hot, we will catch you on the flippity flop.